Hey everyone, buckle up. It's gonna be a good one. I'm Nate.
I'm Ryan.
And this is N&R Analysis. Tonight we are playing a little game called Who's Your Pick. To explain Who's Your Pick, Ryan has come up with Rookie of the Year stats from candidates for Rookie of the Year, and I have come up with some stats of one-on-one predictions. We're going to lay out the stats first. We're going to say who we'd rather have from those statistics, and then reveal who the player is. Yeah. So Ryan's going to start us off.
Yeah, so basically what we're going to do is, we're going to pick who we think is the best based off the stats. No bias on names, nothing like that. So why don't we get going with the Rookie of the Year. So I have four players that I'm going to go through. I'm going to match them up two, and then we're going to have a championship round between the other two. So for the first one, I have a guy averaging 22.7 points per game, 6.8 rebounds per game, 3.6 assists per game, and 0.7 steals and 0.7 blocks per game. And they are going up against a guy with 11.7 points, 7 rebounds, 0.9 assists, 0.4 steals, and 1 block per game.
Okay, so my guess here is who's my pick. I would pick the person that is averaging 22.7 points a game. I don't think you can go wrong with anybody in these because it's awesome to see rookies. Well, yeah. First off, we'll say Ryan's stats are for rookies, obviously, and my stats are going to be a lot higher because they're for MVP candidates. So there are a lot of candidates within that bracket.
The one thing is, it is Rookie of the Year, so it's not saying that their career is going to be awful or it's going to be amazing off this. They could have a great year and then have a bad career. They could have a bad year and a great career. So it's very interesting. These four guys are all top players. They're all great players. And, you can't go wrong with any of them, honestly. But who would you go with out of those two?
So I'd go with the 22.7 points per game. Yeah. I think generally points is where you want the most. Yeah. 6.8 rebounds is great.
Versus and then 7. I think it's kind of a no-brainer on that
one. Yeah, no-brainer on that one.
Yeah. Okay. So on the next one, we have a guy averaging... This one's closer. So we have a guy averaging 16.2 points per game, 4.9 rebounds per game, 4.3 assists per game, 1.1 steals per game, and 0.3 blocks per game. And they're going up against someone with 19.2 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, 1.5 assists per game, 0.6 steals per game, and 0.1 blocks per game.
Okay, I'm going to take the person that's scoring 16.2 over the person that's scoring 19.2 per game.
Why are you doing that?
Because their rebounds are close enough where one's averaging 5, one averaging 4.
Yep.
But the person with 16.2 points per game is drastically higher in assists, 4.3 assists versus 1.5.
And he's higher in steals and blocks.
And higher in steals and blocks. So I am taking selection number 2. Just kidding, I don't know which one that was.
The 16.2, yeah. No, and I agree with that one. I think it's a tighter matchup between those two than the first two, but I think I would go with that same one. Okay. Now, let's go back. Do we want the 22.7 points, 6.8 rebounds, 3.6 assists, 0.7 steals, and 0.7 blocks? Or do you want the 16.2 points, 4.9 rebounds, 4.3 assists, 1.1 steals, and 0.3 blocks? Tight race.
Yeah, it's close enough in the assists. Even though the steals are less, I'm probably going to go with the person that's got 22.7 points per game, 6.8 rebounds, and 3.6 assists versus the 16.2 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, and 4.3 assists. Steals and blocks we didn't throw in there, but... Okay, Ryan's going to reveal.
I agree. That's what I would do. I'd say that's the order. I'd say and I would say the first guy matched up with in the first round, he finishes 4th. That's kind of where I would put them all. I'd go first and second,
So these are top candidates for
Yeah.
Rookie of the Year, right?
These are top candidates. So let's go through the names on who those candidates are.
Yeah.
So the guy
awesome.
who's leading it all, who we both chose, is Paulo Banchero,
Mm-hmm.
which right now, if you go off NBA Rookie of the Year ladder, they have him at number 2.
Is it Benedict?
Benedict Matherin's
Is number one?
Number 1. But yet, he's the guy who we said lost in the first round to that guy who took second, which is Jaden Ivey. And then 4th is Jabari Smith Jr.
That's true! Oh my
So-
goodness!
If you look up the stats, you go, I mean, you could make an argument for Jaden Ivey or Paulo Banchero, I think, for who's number 1 and number 2.
Mhm.
But I think both of them, their stats are saying they're better than Benedict Matherin. Obviously, numbers don't tell the whole story, but I think that is interesting. Also, the reason why I put Paulo Banchero with Jabari Smith Jr., I mean, one's the number 2 in the rookie ladder, one's number 4. But what's interesting is there was the argument of Jabari Smith should have been taken before Paulo Banchero in the draft. There's a lot of people who thought that.
Who was going to go first?
Yeah, I mean, Chet Holmgren was obviously in the running too, and then he's not playing this year. But it was between Paulo or Jabari Smith. But it was kind of a no-brainer. You chose Paulo Banchero, right, Nate?
Yeah. Yeah, notable to point out as well that Benedict Matherin was taken 6th by the Pacers, which is cool that he's
jumps up there.
leading the way, but personally, and my pick was Chet, so I get a change. My pick is now Paulo, and I think he should win it.
Which is kind of
So-
interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Looking at the stats versus what's actually, who's leading the ladder right now is Benedict Matherin, even though, in our opinion, Paulo Banchero is better.
Sure.
So, okay. We good then? Moving on to MVP?
Good.
Nothing to
Move on
discuss there?
MVP.
That was a good one. I like that, right? Okay. So mine's a little bit different. We're doing one player versus one other player. I'm revealing the statistics. I'll put them up on the screen. And then Ryan will pick who he'd rather have on his team. Notable to point out, it depends on the team. You might need rebounds on a team versus points and things like that. But there is some interesting conversation that will come with this. Because when I reveal the players, I think that may change Ryan's mind. May or may not. I don't know. So, and youth has a lot to do with it.
Yeah,
A
definitely.
lot of it's experience. I mean, you take a player like Luka versus, I don't know, Jason Tatum. Well, sorry, they're both young.
But Luka has, I think,
Someone that's older.
I think I'd say Luka's more experienced in the playoffs and things like that than Jason. But
Right.
they're both young guys, yeah. Or like
Okay.
a Steph versus one of them.
So here we are. So say a player that is averaging 31.3 points per game, 11.5 rebounds per game, and 5.5 assists, versus a player who is averaging 33.5 points per game, 8.8 rebounds, and 8.6 assists per game.
See, that's tight because it was it 2 points.
I wish you could see him. I should have been smarter and given you the stats in front of you to take the choice.
You're
But
good. That's tight because it's, what is it, 2 points difference between the two, roughly?
2 points difference. Yep.
And then difference on assists is 3.
There's a lot more rebounds for
Or 3
player
rebounds.
1 that I said. There's, 11.5 versus 8.8.
And assists were...
And assists is 5.5 for player 1 versus 8.6 for player 2.
See, I would go with player 2, and let me tell you why. I think with...
Wait till you hear the name.
It's tight
This is crazy.
because they are so close, but I think the assists just gets the players more involved, and so I like that more.
Okay. Guesses as to who you think he's playing.
Oh, you want me to guess right now?
Sure.
Okay. One of them is Luka.
Yep.
Is it?
How many points per game is he averaging? Any idea?
He's probably player 1. Player 1's probably Luka.
Player 2 is actually Luka.
Oh, okay. Player 2 is Luka. So
33.
is
0.5.
player 1 Jason Tatum?
Nope. It's Giannis. And you picked Luka over Giannis, which you couldn't go wrong with
you can't
either.
go wrong with either. Yeah.
My wife will argue that Luka does not get anyone on the Mavericks involved. And I'm pointing out his statistics saying he's nearly averaging a triple-double. It's crazy. Like a 30-point triple-double, may I add. The numbers he's putting up is insane for his age. He's going to be a fantastic player, likely MVP this season. But my wife will argue that he doesn't get people involved. So personally, if it were names, I would say Giannis over Luka. So that's interesting.
That is
Anyways,
interesting.
move on to the next one.
And I will say something with that, though.
Okay.
Luka is favored to win it over Giannis. And obviously, they're both having great stats. But I think most people say Luka's more likely to win it.
Yep.
And I think it goes back to this guy right here. LeBron James back in Cleveland, where he had crazy years and he was overlooked because he had won it before and people got tired of him winning. And I think we're kind of seeing that with Giannis, where people, they forget about him.
Mm-hmm.
He's having these crazy stellar years, but people are going, we want somebody different. And so he's not even being talked about as much. They're talking about other guys, like Jason Tatum I've heard come in the conversation more than I've heard Giannis come into the conversation.
It's very true.
So I think it comes down to that bias of people just want a new winner, which there's nothing wrong with that, but also sometimes you gotta give it to the best.
Ryan is bringing up a whole bunch of names of people that are on my list, so let's continue. Okay, player 1, 31.6 points per game.
These aren't either of those two guys, right? Giannis and
No,
Luka.
none of these are the same.
Okay.
And I have four different ones.
Okay, cool.
We'll try to speed through these.
I like this.
31.6 points per game, 7.8 rebounds, and 4.5 assists versus player 2, who has 31.4 points per game. Very close.
Yeah, very close.
6.7 rebounds per game, and 7 assists per game.
I gotta go with the, what is it? 31, 7, and 7, and the other one's 31, 7, and 4?
No, it was 31, 7, and 4 was player 1.
And then what's the other one? 31?
31, 6, and 7.
Yeah, I gotta go 6 and 7. I mean, it's too close on points.
Okay.
Rebounds.
Now, as I reveal the
close.
names, I want to see if you change your mind. So, player 1 was Jason Tatum.
Okay.
Player 2 was Stephen Curry.
You
picked Steph Curry, which is not a bad choice.
Neither of them are bad choices.
This is where youth comes in. Would you pick Tatum, or would you actually pick Steph? Because look at what Steph is doing, and he's the best shooter in the NBA. Best shooter in the NBA.
Yeah. So, I will make a clarification of who I would pick, depending on the team. If I'm taking a team right now I'm trying to win a championship this year, I choose Steph.
Steph Curry. Okay.
But
if you want to build
if
on
I'm
Jason
looking at a guy that I draft, if they did a big draft of every NBA player, I'd rather have Tatum because Tatum has the longevity. He's going to last longer than Steph, assuming no injuries.
Steph's been great so far. And they've won chips, which is the ultimate goal.
Yeah, but just like longevity, Steph probably won't last as long as he doesn't have as many years as Jason has in the league, assuming injuries.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Cool. Okay, on to the next one. I'm going to swap these out of order because I'm excited about this next one. Okay, person that has 25.8 points per game, 8.6 rebounds, and 6.3 assists versus another player who has 28.4 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 5.1 assists.
So I'm going to go with the player A on that one.
Okay.
Player B, is that Donovan?
How'd you know?
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Who's
player 1? Who's player 1, and why would you go for player 1 over 2?
What were the stats for player 1?
So player 1 had 25.8 points per game versus Donovan, who had 28.4 points per game. And then rebounds, 8.6 versus 4. And then assists, 6.3 versus 5.
He has 6.3, player 1?
Player 1 has 6.3 assists per game. And player 2, Donovan, has 5.
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one. Wait till you reveal the name. You made the right pick because of your consistent love for him.
It's Anthony Davis.
It's not Anthony Davis.
See, I thought it was.
It is LeBron James.
Oh, see, there you go.
I thought that was so cool.
That is interesting.
I love looking at this stuff because I was like, LeBron's not even in the conversation, but he should be.
I mean,
for his age and what he's doing.
His age, he's been injured, and his team record right now. Although they're playing great right now, they are.
I don't know.
They're starting to come back.
I don't know.
The way
they lost the other day to the Pacers with that comeback run, and
since he's been back, I think he's been back 4 games and they're 3-1. They're coming back.
I I still don't think they're making the playoffs. You watch.
But see, I mean, like, he's not even talking about. I mean, obviously, there's.
Can we put a bet on it since it's going to be on our podcast here? Ryan and I are betting a drink. It's not much.
Yeah, y'all don't know. We do these bets in the office. Okay, we work together. If you don't know, where we will bet about a drink. It's not enough to hurt anyone's income or what their livelihood, but it's enough to make it count. So you don't place a dumb bet.
Ryan's always right about everything, though. So this one he's going to be wrong. The Lakers are not going to make the playoffs.
Okay. Shake.
Drink.
Right there.
Drink.
You saw it first.
You saw it first. Okay, last one. Oh, actually, I got 2 more because the other one's with a previous NBA player. Okay, so this one, 22.7 points per game, 9.8 rebounds per game, and 8.9 assists versus player 2, 31.1 points per game.
Ooh.
Significantly more. 9.6 rebounds per game, but 4.9 assists.
What were the first guys? What's the difference on rebounds?
Difference on rebounds, 9.8 versus 9.6.
Okay, assists?
Assists is 8.9, player 1, versus 4.9. So 5 assists less. Is that right? 4 assists
What were the point
less.
difference? What was the point?
Point difference is almost 9, not quite 9 points a game. 22.7 versus 31.1.
See, that's tough. But I would have to go with the 22, simply because the 4 assists could be more points, and I like a guy who gets his team involved. But, I mean, 31, that is nice.
So that's so nice. Funny, because I know Ryan's opinions on everything. So to hear these, if he's picking the other person, it's interesting to me.
Do you want me to guess who the players are?
I'm not going to tell you the stats are, who the players are yet. Would you rather pick Joel Embiid, or would you rather pick Nikola Jokic?
Who would I rather
be on your team? Who would you rather have on your team between those two?
It depends on the team. But who do I think is a better player?
Yeah.
Now, this is tough because I've thought about this one, and
make this quick.
In the last couple weeks, I've thought of it even more. I would rather have. I want to say Joel Embiid, but I'd rather have Jokic.
Okay, Jokic is who you took.
Yeah,
Jokic was 22.7 points per game, which he has significantly gone down, but he has kept his assists. It's funny to hear you say. He's kept his rebounds and his assists high.
He's a good player.
Joel Embiid has a lot less assists,
so
but a lot
are the
more
2 guys.
points. Those are the 2 guys.
Okay.
Correct. Okay, and then going with a player that is out of the league versus a player that we've already mentioned. So, and this is career stats. One player, this is going to give it away for Ryan. He's already going to know who it is. Only played for 10 seasons. The other player, I hope I don't have that wrong. The other player has played for 5 seasons. So, player 1, 30.1 points per game, 6.2 rebounds per game, 5.3 assists, and I'm adding in steals on this one, 2.3 steals per game for career statistics, versus another player who has 26.8 points per game. This is the 5-season person currently in the NBA. 8.6 rebounds per game, 8 assists per game on average, and 1.1 steals.
And these, have we talked about either of these guys earlier?
We talked about one of them, yes.
Okay, so that's Luka.
That is Luka.
Okay. What were the stats for the first guy?
First guy had 30.1.
He only played 10 years.
Yep.
With 30.1.
That is the highest.
That was his average, or that was his highest?
Recorded by the NBA. That's average through 10 years. Which is insane.
He only played 10 years.
Correct.
And that was his average for his whole career, or his highest average?
That's the average for his entire career.
Oh. Who averaged that for... Oh, that's Michael.
Michael Jordan.
That's interesting.
Dang it, you didn't pick first who you wanted.
You
blew it.
Sorry. I blew it. I was trying to think. I was like 10 years.
He's trying to figure out who the player was.
Michael Jordan was in the league for so long, but he did have the break. And
so Luka obviously has higher... Well, he's played 5 less seasons.
Yeah, so there's still time.
Well, I don't
for
know.
him to go up.
He'll only be 28 by the time he's played 10 seasons, which is insane, man.
Unless he takes 2 years off for gambling. Who knows?
Yeah, he might pull a Jordan. Quit the league for a while and then come back.
Yeah.
Anyways, something I forgot to say after Ryan's, put your pick for Rookie of the Year in the comments, please. And then also your pick for MVP. And tell us what you thought of this. Was this a cool segment? Did you like this?
Should we do it more?
Should we do this
Should
more?
we compare previous players with new players?
Should we go back to previous games that we've played? Seems like we've now played 4 or 5 games, and we don't ever repeat games. So, give us your thoughts on what you think. Excited to hear from you. See you next week.